Hello friends, a very warm welcome to this first lecture of the lecture series for the development of Android apps in water resources sector. Although we are saying it is for water resources sector, but it is not confined to water resources sector. Once you know how to develop app, you can develop for any sector. Um, I will start with my introduction. My name is Manish Rathore. I did my BE from SGSIT Indore in 2007 and then MTech Structures from IIT Bombay in 2009. And immediately after my MTech, I joined Central Water Commission in New Delhi headquarters. Uh, there I was looking after the design of hydropower structures, hydropower plants, especially in the northeastern parts of India. And then on my promotion, I was transferred to NWA Pune, National Water Academy Pune, where I worked for a period of 5 years. And there I was taking mostly the lectures on the design and analysis of structures, especially different components of the hydropower plant. I was also looking after the programming and the different languages. I was giving training on Visual Basic and MathCAD, MATLAB, C, HTML, PHP, and so on and so forth. So this is what my introduction. Yes, one more. After a period of 5 years, I joined Narmada Control Authority, and I'm presently posted from last 1.5 year at NCA Indore on deputation basis. So this is all about my introduction. Um, I would like to introduce a little bit about the content that will be covering in our lecture series. Although yes, as I said, it is an Android app development lecture series for water resources sector, and these are the topics that we'll be covering in the entire lecture series. Uh, we have separated these lectures by some, like in day 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15 we have self practice day. It's a kind of gap in between the training where you can go to YouTube or you can go to online tutorials and websites and practice yourself the Android or whatever we have learned in the previous days. We'll start with the basics of Android app development. There will be two lectures. We'll be seeing how Android app works, what are the benefits, advantages of Android, why we should switch to Android, and so on. Then we'll be looking into the graphical user interface of the development platform, that is the Android Studio, and what are the different modules of Android Studio, and so on. We'll also be looking into the introduction to Java, XML, SQL, which are the backbones or building blocks of any Android app. Then we'll be creating first app, of course, kind of hello world kind of app, wherein you will learn how to wherein you will learn how to install that app which you have developed on your PC in your mobile device. Uh, how to configure your device. By default, the Android devices are disabled for installation through USB, but how to configure it, and finally how to install from your PC to your Android device. We'll also be having a small practice session kind of thing, wherein we'll be creating apps with a small button with a click listener, which will show a kind of welcome message or toast when the button is clicked. We'll also be having lectures on the intents, activities, fragments. What are the differences? What are the roles of intents? What are the different aspects of activities and fragments? What are the life cycles? What are the differences between activities and fragments, and so on. We'll also be having a session on the database handling, how to store data in the databases, and finally how we can publish these apps on the Google Play Store, because to make these apps public you have to upload them on the Google Play Store. How to sign the app, and then finally how to upload it. And also we'll be having one lecture on understanding the Know Your Water app, which has been developed by the SDMC group, the Software Development and Management Center group, which was established at National Water Academy Pune. What are the different modules of that app, and what is its functionality, how the GUI is working, what are the server side scripting which was required, how the data is transferred from server to the app, and so on. So friends, this will be the content of the entire lecture series. Although I have written it day wise, but it's not necessarily it will be strictly like that. So some content may go from one session to another, or some may be covered in previous session and so on. So it will be a kind of mix, but this is the structure how we'll be proceeding ahead in our lecture series. Talking about Android, it's an operating system which has been designed by Google for mobile devices. It is not basically designed for desktop PCs or laptops. It has been designed for mobile devices like smartphones and tablets and tablet computers and so on. It was developed by Google. It is open source, means it is free of cost. It is free of cost plus its source code is also open. So you are free, anyone is free to copy that code, to modify that code, and then distribute the code even for commercial purposes. It is Linux based, so there is no hidden cost because the background language is Linux. That is why that Linux is also free and open source. That's why there is no cost whatsoever involved in the development of Android apps. Android 1.0, the initial first release was in September 2008, and after that there have been many revisions and many versions which have been released with improved functionality, and there have been many deprecations as well. It was developed initially by the Open Handset Alliance, which was led by Google and other companies. And what I recommend is you should be having some basic of programming languages and script writing before you proceed ahead with this lecture series, because I will not be covering the very basics of programming, like how a for loop works, or like how an if else condition works, or how a do while loop works, what are the variables and so on. So I will not be covering these things. I hope you are already having the basics of programming and script writing. The question why we should move to Android, why should we develop Android apps, not any other apps? So the answer to that is quite simple and quite obvious. The first answer is that it is open source. So being open source has its own advantages. All the libraries, all the source code, all the core and everything is available. The code to everything is available. So let's say you want to use a library, but that library does not have a feature or a function that you want. What you can do, you can open the code, you can add that feature, and then you can use that library as well. So that is the biggest advantage of adopting an open source software, is that all the libraries, all the code, everything is, the source code is available. Or say for example, one library you are using and that library has a few features. Out of that features you don't want 3 features which are very heavy on the system. So what you can do, you can go to the source code, you can comment out that part, and you can use the remaining part, or you can simply delete that part that you don't want to use, and then you can use the remaining part, and so on. There is a huge community which is supporting the development of Android apps. So let's say you are developing an app and you are stuck somewhere, you don't know how to proceed ahead. What you can do is and obviously you can post that question on the forum, and someone will come forward and help you. And of course, before posting a forum, you should give it a try to search that problem, because if you are facing that problem, there are 99% chances that someone else might have already faced it. So that person might have already posted that question, and that might have already been replied. So there are 99% chances. There are in fact more than 99% chances. So still, if you are not able to find any solution, you can go to the forum, you can post the question, someone is definitely going to come and answer you and help you out. So that community support is huge, and they are very positive. The marketing is superb. Android has consistently gained on over Windows and the iOS as far as mobile devices is concerned. I'm not talking about desktops and laptops. But as far as mobile devices are concerned, like your mobile phone or tablets, Android has already gained an edge over iOS and Windows operating systems. The reason for that is their marketing is superb. They are very good at marketing, they are very good at advertising. So that is why, and since now the market share is already very large, it is close to 72%. The 72% of mobile devices are running on Android as of date, as on date. So that's why you will have a higher exposure and you will get a greater audience to your app. There is something which is called as inter-app integration. Means your app can talk to another app and other apps can talk to your apps. I will give you a small example. Like there is a share a message hyperlink. When you click that hyperlink, it opens Chrome, and then Chrome decides it is related to which app. Now, for example, it is related to messaging or SMS, or whether it is related to WhatsApp. It will open that app and then it will share that message through WhatsApp or through SMS or through Drive or whatever you like. So, in this case, what it is doing is the Chrome is interacting with WhatsApp and WhatsApp is getting data from Chrome. This is what is happening. Similarly, your app can talk with other apps and other apps can talk to your apps. Okay, it is called as broadcasting in Android terms. Means your app can broadcast a few things. For example, you are in the middle of a WhatsApp video call and then somebody calls you on your mobile number. Then what happens? You switch from WhatsApp video call to your mobile call. So this is how a caller is interacting with WhatsApp. Whenever a call is received, the caller is broadcasting that I have received a call. Anyone who is using any app which is using the microphone and camera should stop or should pause for a while. And then that broadcast is received by WhatsApp. And then what it does is it mutes the microphone, it frees the microphone, it frees the camera for that time. And then when the call is disconnected, it will again broadcast that now the microphone and camera are free, anybody can use it, and then again WhatsApp resumes the call. This is what is called as inter-app integration. You can design your app to interact with other apps, other popular apps. The cost of development is reduced, or I would say very low, because the basic language Linux is free, open source. The Java, it is again free, open source. Java is free. XML, of course, XML is the markup language, it is free, there is no cost required. The SQL, they are using the free version of it, so again SQL, there is no cost required. And the Android have a kind of joint venture or agreement with the IntelliJ, and IntelliJ is providing the development platform which is called as Android Studio. That also is free. So if you want to develop an app and install in your own mobile phone, there is not a single penny which is required, which you have to pay. No payment is required whatsoever if you want to run an app on your mobile. But yes, if you want to publish it on Google Play Store, it will be required. You will have to pay some amount to publish the app on Play Store. Till that point, you don't need any money. Once you publish it, that is also one-time cost. You can release as many versions as you want after the initial payment is done. Success ratio will be higher. This is what I am saying in sense that obviously the Android is having larger market ratio, and since your app will be visible to a higher audience, larger audience, the chances of the success of that app will be higher. That is why I am saying there is a higher chance of success in your app if you are developing it in the Android. The development platform, which is the Android Studio, is very rich. Once you start working on it, you will feel that yes, about 80% of the typing work is done by the Android Studio, and you will have to type only the remaining part. You only have to design the logic, you only have to type the logic or only the script. Rest everything is taken care by the Android Studio. For example, I will just give you an example. If you want to uh, create a on-click listener for an Android app, you have to just type on, capital O-N, and it will give you a suggestion that do you want to type on-click listener. You select that, and it will create the getter and everything which is related, which is required for a on-click listener. You only have to type what that app will do when that button is clicked. That's it. Rest everything will be taken care by the Android Studio. Talking about the features of Android, some of the features I have already discussed, but some are still remaining. The user interface of any Android app can be made very beautiful. You see, you have got very beautiful select buttons, you have got very beautiful option buttons, you have got very beautiful click buttons. You have got some animations. For example, you have got drop down. So drop down will be shown with an animation. So these kind of the animation and the and I what I'm trying to say is that if you are making your app beautiful, then it will attract the customer, or it will attract the user. That is what it is. You have got very rich connectivity. You can connect your app using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or maybe even SMS or calls. In calls in GPRS you can have maybe 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G is coming up, and so on. So you have got very rich connectivity. In addition to that, you have got connectivity to the sensors also. For example, your mobile has got sensor for gyroscope, for compass, and accelerometer, or maybe GPS sensor kind of. These kind of connectivity are generally not available in a desktop PC or a laptop. The number of sensors that a mobile device is having is far more than the sensors that a desktop PC is having. So you've got a very rich connectivity to different other devices, as well as within devices to different sensors. You have got the facility of database and file storage. You can store data in files as well as in databases. For example, you want to store a tabular data, then you should go for database. In database, you can store structured data in form of rows which are categorized column wise. You can store that data. File storage something is different. For example, you want to store an image. Image is difficult to store in a database, so it is stored as a file in the internal storage or the external storage of the Android device. File storage, for example, you want to store a video file, or maybe a document, or maybe a PowerPoint presentation that you are seeing on the device. These kind of files can be stored on the internal storage of the Android device. You have got a very good, very rich media support. Android has got internal built-in libraries for supporting video files, audio files, pictures, images, GIFs, GIF, GIFs, and so on. So obviously you can alter and modify those libraries, but I don't think that will be required, because most of the features or functionalities that you use when you are dealing with these media files are already available in the Android as built-in libraries. So you don't have to type too much. You have to only import that library, and that library will do the heavy lifting works. You only have to type the logic. That's it. In addition to the media database and the connectivity, you have got calls and messaging, which is not available in desktop PCs. In addition to messaging, also you have got 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G, because so you have got three different more connectivities: through call, through SMS, and through internet, which can directly be connected through the ISP, like Airtel or Vodafone or whatever. Those ISPs can provide you through SIM, can provide you the connectivity of call, SMS, and internet. Android devices support multi-touch, so far more number of gestures are available. For example, to zoom, you can pinch it to zoom. You don't have to click on some button. You can simply zoom. So it gives a real life kind of interface to the user. So you can even support, for example, taking a screenshot. You can swipe three fingers at once. That will give it take a screenshot. These kind of multi-touch gestures can also be programmed and handled. Again, to support these multi-touch, you don't have to type anything. You don't have to write anything. The libraries are available. You just need to import those libraries, and you have to specify what you want to do when that particular touch gesture is occurs on that screen. Multitasking. Android language plus Android devices, both they are capable of doing multiple things at once. For example, something is running in the foreground, and there can be multiple services which are running in the background. So these kind of multitasking is possible in Android. You can design your apps to do multiple threads, to run multiple threads in the background. When you are doing, let's say for example, when you are creating the user interface, or when you are taking the data from the user, you can connect to the internet and fetch the results in real time. And multi-language, of course, if you want to target more audience, you have to support multi-language. Android has got features which is called as language selection. So once a user changes the language in his device, your app will automatically change to that device, provided you have given the translation of the languages, translation of the threads, strings in your app. Your app will be ready for multi-language in that case. There is something which is called as Android API level and JDK. API level is basically an integer number that uniquely identifies the API revision or version. So for example, when we are talking about Jelly Bean, it is 4.1. So it started with 4.0, then 4.1, then 4.2, and so on. And then when a major revision comes, it is the API level is changed to say 5.0, then 6.0. 6.0 was Marshmallow. And one thing you might have noticed already is that the name of the revision, name of the version is also alphabetically. So it is from A, B, C, D like that. Okay, so 6.0 is M, 4.0 is J. Okay, and in between that was 5.5 point something, that was K, it was KitKat. So it is alphabetic, and the API level number is increasing in a increasing order with the all the major revisions that are coming. JDK is basically a Java development kit. It is a kit which is used for development of the Android apps. The prior to 2014 or so, Android development was done in Eclipse, but now it has been deprecated, and Google has adopted Android Studio, which is based on IntelliJ, and IntelliJ is a very rich development platform which has been used from a long time by different developers. It has been earlier used for C++ and C and Java, and now it is also being used for Android development. Basically, Android is based on Java only. So let's see how to install the Android Studio. It is something like 900 MB file which can be downloaded from developer.android.com. You just have to visit that website and download the Android Studio. It's a 900 MB something file. That file, once you download, you extract it and you install it in your PC. I'm not going to do that because I already have installed it on my PC. On this website, developer.android.com, you will also see the links for tutorials, for user guides, for library descriptions, and everything. So, and plus it also has the link for the forum. If you are stuck at some problem, and if you are not able to find a solution on Google or on the existing forums, you can post your question on this forum. Somebody is going to help you in a while. So friends, that was my first lecture that we have completed. in my next lecture we'll be looking into the basics of Android app development. We'll be basically seeing the app structure and the architecture. What are the different modules of a standard Android app that we'll be looking in the that we'll be seeing in the next lecture, the second lecture. So we'll be taking a small break from now. Thank you for your patient listening. Uh, I'll be sharing I'll be sharing this PPT with all of you. If you want to go through this PPT, you can go through. I will also be when we'll be going through different lectures. We'll be seeing different resources from where you can learn Android Android programming, and where you can practice. There are also online editors available where you can type your code and you can practice on virtual devices. Yes, one more thing I forgot to tell you. To test your app, you don't have to have a real device. You don't have to have a mobile device with you. There is something which is called as virtual device. That device is a kind of emulator or a kind of simulator inside your PC which is running Android. So this is how you can test your apps. But what I would recommend is you should install these apps on a physical mobile device like this, so that because in desktop you will not have sensors, you will not have call connectivity, you will not have messaging connectivity. So what I recommend is you should always spare a mobile, or you can of course install in your own mobile if you are having an Android mobile. You should install these apps on a physical mobile, not on an emulator, so that full functionality can be tested. Okay, so we'll have a small break now. After the break, maybe we can continue with our next session, wherein we'll be having, let me see, wherein we'll be having the app structure. We'll be discussing the structure of the Android apps and what are the different modules and different parts of an Android app. Thank you very much.